final five. These are five questions. There's no right or wrong answers. I just want the folks to get a sense of David Bernstein and understand a little bit more about you, hopefully, through these sort of rapid fire questions. So, number one, pretend you're trapped in a broken elevator for 5 hours with any historical Supreme Court justice. Who do you pick for the best conversation, and who do you pray it isn't because you'd end up losing your mind?
Ah, that's an interesting question. Who is the most interesting Supreme Court justice? Um, I've met a few of them, and the one who would be most fun to be in an elevator with, as far as I know, is Clarence Thomas. He's a great storyteller. He's very funny, and he's
Okay.
just pleasant to be with. The most intellectually interesting, although he'd be frustrated because I think he would. I don't think he'd accept some of my premises, and we would, but it might be Scalia. Uh, uh,
Ironically.
And the one who would be most interesting just to hear their life stories might be Thurgood Marshall,
Mm,
because before he was a Supreme Court justice, he would be going out, litigating for the NAACP in all white courtrooms in the South with risk of
right.
being lynched. He had a very heroic life, actually, and it'd be
Yes.
fascinating just to hear about it. So I didn't give you one, but I gave you three with different.
That's
And the
fine.
one that would probably drive me crazy would probably be Holmes. I just think
Okay.
he was just or maybe James McReynolds, because he was just a horrible reactionary and anti-Semite. So I probably wouldn't enjoy being with him on that basis. But Holmes he had this patrician air about him, and thought, I think, a lot more highly of himself than his actual intellect deserved.
Okay. Fantastic. Um, Assume you could ram through one new constitutional amendment. What would the 28th Amendment say?
What did the 28th Amendment say? Um, wow, that's a good question. Uh, I don't know, the one that comes to mind. Let's take two that are actually plausible. One would be a balanced budget amendment, and I think it wouldn't be a balanced budget amendment, but it would be, you have to be within a certain range, like anywhere from 2% -2% to +2% of the budget. I would have to have some considerations of not having budgetary gimmicks to avoid it, because otherwise it's meaningless. I'm not sure
Right.
if it could be done, but I do think that racking up, the problem with financial crises is they occur when people lose faith in the underlying institutions, and you don't know when you don't see it coming. So we could keep piling up debt, and everything goes. And all of a sudden, the people who make the big money decisions say, we don't have faith in the U.S. dollar anymore, or in the
Right.
faith and credit, and then the economy collapses, and we stay the current trajectory. It's going to happen. The other one is the term limits amendment. I think some of the term limits amendments that states passed were a little strict, like 3 years for a member of the House, or 12, 1 or 2 terms for the Senate. But I think at some point, um, you know, people should move on. If you're a member of Congress, run for the Senate or go do something else. Or maybe the related one is, this might be plausible already. I really think one problem with Supreme Court is we have the nine justices and they stay on forever. They get cults of personality around them, and a colleague of mine proposed this. This might already be constitutional, but if it's not, I'd have an amendment. Instead of having nine justices serve for life, I would say you choose the Supreme Court justices randomly for short terms, let's say 4-year terms, from the current judges on the federal courts of appeals. So instead of it being like this one really influential justice who's, either because he's an intellectual towering figure or because he's right at the center of the court, gets all the attention, you instead act like a real court, and it's not about you, it's about the precedent, and it sort of relieves the tension of, if one justice dies, everything changes, because that's not going
Right.
to happen.
So rotating cast of Supreme Court justices,
Yeah.
and it would also put more importance on the federal
Yes.
circuit judges
Right.
being appointed. Right. That's a good one. I like it. And of course, your balanced budget amendment is sort of based on, from what I'm understanding, on Milton Friedman's suggestion of having a rules based balanced budget amendment. So anything Uncle Milton says, I'm with.
Right.
So I'll go with that. Okay. Number three, when you're not working, what's the thing that would most surprise the people who know you only from your academic writings?
I'm a big fan of 80s alternative and 90s alternative music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Throw
anything
out.
from
I was
new wave, ska, some forms of reggae, grunge from the 90s, all this stuff. No reason, I know my students are always surprised when they learn this because they think, "Oh, you're a serious professor." One time they heard my Devo ringtone on my phone came off from the song "Whip It." So yeah, that might be it.
I was going to say, throw us out your favorite band from the era.
Um, Somewhere, so I think I'd have to choose between Devo and the B-52s.
Two good choices, certainly. Uh, if the Lochner Era Supreme Court had gotten everything right, what would America look like today?
Most likely we'd have well, if we call the Lochner Court the court of the era rather than just an opinion, I think we probably would have um, a somewhat smaller national government and somewhat less regulation. But I don't think law autonomously or independently can stifle social change in the long term. I think the court does a great favor in the 30s by slowing down the New Deal, right? Because some of the early New Deal legislation was really terrible. People don't appreciate how bad some of the original New Deal legislation was, but ultimately they couldn't stand in front of the wave. And, every other country in the world went with a big welfare state and so forth. And I assume the US, one way or the other, would have also.
Would have eventually gotten to that point, yeah. Okay, and the last question. What's the most useful thing a critic of your work has ever said to you?
Oh, that's a good one. Uh, when I was in law school, I had a professor who was a visiting professor from Ohio State, who was a historian, named Les Benedict. His name is Michael Les Benedict. He goes by Les, which I don't never understood because I think Michael's a much better name than Les. But anyway, Les Benedict, and I was not a mature academic at the time. I'm not from an academic family. Um, I did well in college, but I wouldn't say I really absorbed, the academic culture that well in terms of really learning how to be a scholar. And he said to me, "David, your work is really historically sound, but some of the accompanying language you use is much too tendentious." He said,
Mm.
"Someday, this hasn't actually happened." He said, "Someday Hillsdale College will be paying you $10,000 to give their endowed lectures. And when you do that, you're talking to that audience of people who want to hear ideological stuff. Go, feel free. But for now, you need to sound like an objective scholar. Your work is good, so don't undermine it with tendentious rhetoric that you don't need."
So he got you a little more focused in your writings.
Yeah,
Okay,
a little more aware of how the writing comes off as opposed to the quality.
excellent. Well, that was good advice, certainly, and I'll probably steal a little bit of that advice for myself.